2. Leif, slow down. You're not making any sense. Panic rose in Cal's chest as Leif tore through his office. He was searching for something, pulling drawers out of the desk and scattering their contents onto the floor. Cal had never seen him this animated, wild-eyed, frantic. It scared him. There's no way Oved is the Gyfted. Prissa probably just thought she saw a white light. Plus, what's the big deal if she is anyway? Cal's voice shook, his words lacking conviction. Leif just stared back at him, his pupils manic. Cal, I need you to listen. His words were quick, tumbled out, unfocused, as if translating thought into speech without pause. The Gyfted is real, very real, and very dangerous. The Gyfted. From the littles of the orphanage to rotten families of Igni, everyone had heard the stories. A giftling channeled the ambient gift in the air into their bodies, and from there they used that gift to perform arcane feats. According to the legends, the Gyfted didn't so much channel the gift, they became one with it. It flowed through them at all times, allowing them to perform the unthinkable. But that couldn't be Ovette. Cal refused to believe it. Ovette was just Ovette. If what Prissa says is true, Ovette is in grave danger. Leif continued ransacking his office, the already chaotic space descending into madness. What do you mean the Gyfted is real? I've never seen one. No one has. Cal tried to follow him around the space, but that soon proved to be pointless. What are you doing? Will you just slow down and explain things to me? Relief flashed across Leif's face as he pried a key from a hidden compartment in one of his drawers. He shoved Cal aside, unlocked the chest in the corner, and withdrew a battered sword. The hilt was covered in weathered scratches, the battles in which they'd been earned a distant memory. The blade, hewn of a material Cal didn't recognize, fared no better. It was worn and chipped along its edge, but despite the aged appearance, it emanated threat. Leif closed his eyes, centered himself with a breath, and pressed his forehead against the blade, hands gripping the pommel with one above the other. The Davins cannot find out what she is, where she is. But damn it! Leif dropped the blade to his side, his face twisting between panic and anger. They must already know. Of course they'd know. He threw open the final drawer of his desk and emptied its contents on the ground, tearing through the scattered papers until he found what looked like a map of Igni. Leif, what is going on? Why would the Davins want Ovette? That sinking pit in Cal's stomach yawned deeper. His palms grew hot, sweaty, and that familiar nervous energy flooded his veins. Does it have something to do with what Prissa thinks she saw? And what is this map you've got? Leif scanned the map, ran a finger along the streets between several annotated locations, some of which were circled, others crossed out. Cal, I don't have time to explain. I need you to find Ovette and bring her back here. If she's here, maybe I can cut a deal. Cut a deal for what? And with who? Come on! Leif barked as he unlocked the door to his office. Before leaving, he fixed Cal with a grim stare. Bring her back here, Cal. Whatever it takes. By the time Cal collected himself, Leif was gone. The makeshift classroom was now dominated by a long table where Roscoe, Prissa, and the other littles sat. A wooden bowl sat before them. They giggled and whispered to one another as Lady Havisham slopped meager stew portions into their bowls, while admonishing one or two of them for starting early. Her motherly expression soured when she noticed Cal. You're too old to be having any of it, and there's not enough to go around anyway. You need to scavenge someplace else. Cal swallowed the rising bile in his throat, the desire to bite back and put her in her place. Leif's words rang in his ears, and the only thing on his mind at that moment was Ovette. I don't want any. I'm looking for Ovette. Have you seen her? Ovette? Aye, I saw her leaving this morning, she replied, eyebrow cocked as she passed an accusatory eye over Cal, her cogs churning away, imagining what Hollowborn mischief he was about to drag Ovette into. Did she say where she was going? I don't think should be telling you. Ovette's a good girl. Knows her place in this world, unlike some. Cal took a deep breath. Ovette mattered more than arguing. Leif asked me to go fetch her and bring her back here. Why can't he do it himself? He knows you're a bad influence on her. His fingers dug into his palms. Just one more comment. One more, and he knew he would lose it. Are you going to tell me or not? The words ground between his teeth. No, I'm not. Not till you tell me what Leif wants with her. Because he thinks she's the Gyfted. The words burst out of Cal's mouth before he could stop them. Lady Havisham's scorn dropped in an instant. Color drained from her face. Eyes wide, nostrils flared. Flames! No! She whispered, her hand raised to her mouth. Her reaction took Cal by surprise. It took a second, but her shock gave way to frantic energy, and she squeezed Cal's hands. She's in her spot, her little hideout. Go, quickly now, bring her back. The more she spoke, the more manic she looked. I will, Cal replied. He wanted so badly to ask what the hell was going on. For someone to just slow down and explain why Ovette being the Gyfted was such a bad thing. But her panic was infectious. It wormed its way through his limbs, slithered down his spine. Lady Havisham reached into the satchel hanging at her hip, pulled out a dagger, and thrust it into his hands, the blade nicking his palm. Here, take it. What? Where did you get this? Leif gave it to me long ago. Can't be too careful in the embers. You should know that better than most. Her expression had shifted once more. The panicked ramble was replaced by a sternness. She looked more like the Lady Havisham Cal had come to loathe, but her scorn was absent. She almost looked like she trusted him. Don't use it unless you have to, all right? Promise me. All Cal could do was nod in response. What the hell was going on? What had Ovette gotten herself into? What was Cal getting himself into? Now go! She ushered him out the door before he could say anything, ignoring the squeals and pleas from the other children. Go! Cal made his way through the embers, looking as inconspicuous as possible. Just another Hollowborn trying to remain invisible, and as long as he didn't cause trouble, it would stay that way. He couldn't wrap his head around the idea that Ovette could channel the gift, and from Leif and Lady Havisham's reactions, not just some fire flinging, something dangerous, something she should have told him about sooner. But in all the excitement, Cal hadn't stopped to consider how ridiculous this all was. Ovette was the same age as him. She couldn't have developed her gift now. It wasn't possible. Not unless this danger gift could only show itself later in a person's life. Did that mean Cal could still get his? Will his hand start spouting white light as well? And if not, why not? Why did she get to escape from being a Hollowborn and not him? What was he doing wrong? A crowd was starting to form in the district's market. At this time of day, hawkers were getting ready to close their shops and stalls, settling last bits of whatever they'd scrounged or cobbled together. Cal had always found it kind of pathetic, to be honest. Leif had told him that everyone got by in their own way, and that no one was happy with the Davins. But he didn't see that at all. Cal saw a bunch of cowards who'd rather gossip and whisper behind closed doors than actually push back. People who were content to listen and thank the Davins for their generosity while they pushed people like him out of their shops. The Davins spit on them, so they spit on him. An enormous wall separated the Embers district from the rest of Igni, a black iron buttress that ringed the district. It was built as yet another failsafe for the rest of the city. If the buildings and the lives that occupied them were not enough to staunch the rage that might one day spew from the volcano, then the wall would pick up the slack. Staring at it from ground level made Cal feel small, insignificant, but the view from the top, even Cal had to admit that it was breathtaking. Still, the wall paled in comparison to the giant chain in the sky. Still there, still ominous, still weird. A maintenance door at the foot of the wall stood bent out of shape, the result of a skirmish between a group of resisting Udens and the prefects. Cal remembered Leif's uncharacteristic anger when news broke out of their terrorist activities. Cal had told him that the Udens were in the right. They'd argued soon after. Words spat rather than spoken. Not even Lady Havisham had been able to calm him down. The very next day, Leif was gone, and the orphanage had felt different, the hustle of noise and scampering of little feet absent. It wasn't that unusual for Leif to leave for a day or two, off picking up a supply order or meeting with the orphanage's sole benefactor, someone Cal constantly told himself he would find out about, but never did. But something had felt off about his absence that time. Cal had convinced Ovette to help him search, and a few hours later they'd found themselves staring at this maintenance door. If someone wasn't actively searching for it, then the door would remain hidden well enough behind giant piles of slag and rubble, a common sight throughout most of the Embers, and which here served as a convenient barrier, obscuring the entrance. The door opened into a stairwell that had fared no better than the door itself. The metal handrail was warped and twisted, smooth to the touch. Dark red stains, crusted with time, splattered on the first few steps of the rusted iron flooring. It was obvious from the scoring on the walls what had happened here. Cal often fantasized about the rebels who had used this spot. To finally hear someone speak out against the Davins and their prefect lapdogs. Perhaps some of them had managed to escape and still wandered the embers in secret, waiting for their chance to strike again. The fantasy warmed him, at least for a moment. It made him feel supported, seen. Though the feeling never lasted long, chances are, whoever these rebels were, they weren't like Cal. They may have hated the Davins, but what use would someone like him be to them? Just some troublemaking kid with more temper than sense. Just another Hollowborn. Shaking off the thought, Cal took the stairs two at a time. His footfalls dull, muted echoes announcing his arrival. Now this place served Cal whenever he needed to get away from the staring, the jeering, or the hushed insults. Ovette never seemed to have the same problem, or she was just good at hiding it. She got the same hand-covered whispers as he did, but most folk treated her well enough. She had told him time and time again that all he needed to do was be patient with people, and that it wasn't their fault, that they didn't know any better, or that they were just trying to get by. Cal kind of understood what she meant. He saw how the guards could be just as cruel to them as they were to the Hollowborn, even going so far as openly offering rewards to anyone who snitched on a disobedient neighbor. But Ovette was too forgiving, and one day it was going to get her into trouble. One day like today. Cal cursed himself for not realizing she would be here sooner. Of course she would come here. Ovette always said she loved this spot because Cal loved this spot, whatever that meant. Before long, Cal had made his way to the top of the wall, stepping out to a stunning view of Igni and half expecting Ovette to be sitting there. From here, Cal could spot the market district, the Stokes. It was connected to the Embers via a short bridge that ran over the only open water source in the entire city. Ovette loved watching the people of the Stokes wander from stall to stall. She would try to guess where they came from, what lives they would return to. All Cal cared about were the goods they purchased. The shinier, the better. Further out was the prefect barracks. It didn't have an official district name, but most people had taken to calling it the Coal. It was a huge black building that dominated the smaller ones surrounding it. Cal always thought it looked ugly, with its slanted edges, sharp and precise, all function and no form. A group marched away from the barracks in military formation, 6 people walking side by side with another just ahead of them. From this distance, their patrol route was indecipherable. Too far away to get a good look, but it was no doubt deliberate. The Davins did nothing randomly. Pulling himself from the view, Cal made his way to a crumbled building that served as his and Ovette's secret spot. During many previous trips here, they had brought enough pillows and blankets to make what was left of the ruined tower comfortable. Items the orphanage could spare or was about to throw out. There were a few more lavish pillows than Cal had been able to pilfer without the knowledge or consent of their original owners. Pillows Ovette had initially refused to sit on. After a few days of pouting, he'd offered her the biggest, plushest cushion he'd acquired. It had been enough to bring her out of her silence, and it wasn't until later that he realized that he'd been played. The memory tugged his lips. The metal door to the tower stood before him, the faint scent of tea wafting through its many holes. It was pointless for him to stand here. She'd have heard him coming. But he couldn't move. Dryness tickled his throat. His palms grew slick with sweat. What was he going to say to her? As far as Ovette knew, Cal was oblivious to what was going on with her. Their last conversation escaped him. His mind was blank. He reached into the depths of his pea brain and found nothing. No thoughts, no hellos, no quips about how we're going to make it out of Igni one day soon. There was nothing. Uh, why are you just standing outside the door? Ovette's voice was as soft and sweet as always. No matter what, Cal always found the sound soothing. No one disliked her to her face, though Cal saw their vanishing smiles as she turned away, and how they'd wipe down any surfaces she touched, and even the ones she didn't. Just thinking about it was enough to make his blood boil all over again. Behind their fake smiles, all they saw was another dirty little hollowborn. They, hello, Udos to Cal? While Cal was busy making himself angry all over again, Ovette had opened the door and was now staring at him in the face. What happened? Are you broken? What? Uh, sorry. It's been a long day, Cal replied, rubbing the back of his neck and forcing a smirk. Really? She knew something was up, and she knew that Cal knew that she knew. It was impossible to hide anything from her, and his head hurt just thinking about it. Ovette pulled him over to a broken down section of the tower's wall. The view wasn't much different from the one outside, but it felt cozier here among their scavenged comforts. Or maybe just because she was here. Look, do you see? She said, pointing toward a tiny pinprick of a building in the distance. There's a new shop that's just opened up. Do you think they'll have any food or goods from outside Igni? Maybe something from the other chain cities. How can you even tell it's new from here? Cal replied. The small talk was absurd. He knew that, but he couldn't think of a way to broach the topic. Was he supposed to just come out and say it? I know every store in that district. Although I admit that's mainly because of you, she said, clearly baiting him into a trap. Me? Cal questioned, going along with it. What was the harm in pretending for just a few minutes? Mm-hmm. I've had to apologize to so many of the store owners in the Stokes. You know, because you're always getting kicked out. Helps me remember names and faces. Obet couldn't help but chuckle and beam even wider as she talked. Cal had been the butt of her jibes for so many years now that he'd numbed to their sting. He endured her lame attempts at humor because it made her happy, made her smile. Playing his part further, he rolled his eyes and walked away from the window. Why are you interested in this new place anyway? He leaned against what passed as a table in this run-down gallery, pulling off as mischievous a grin as he could. You planning on stealing something? 'Cause you know that's my specialty, right? Oh, I know. She walked over to the table and took a small pouch out of a bag. Not stealing, buying. The pouch was old and patchy, the same one he'd made for her years ago, something she refused to throw out. It was embarrassing the way she'd held onto it all this time. You still have that? Cal grimaced. Please, let me make you a new one. Ovette clutched it to her chest, protecting it. I don't need a new one, thank you. But it's so old. I'm honestly surprised it's lasted this long. I could make you a better one. Nope. She smiled, fingers pressed into the childhood relic. I like this one just the way it is. Loosening the strings, she opened the pouch just enough for the few coins inside to glint in the light. The gifting ceremony is coming up in a few days, she said. I just thought we could treat some of the littles to something. You know, a nice big meal to celebrate their gift manifesting. That's quite the savings you got there. But why waste it on just one meal? Maybe we should spruce this place up a little. Cal gestured around the spot. Their spot. Few more throw pillows here, an actual chair over there. Replace the wall with a a wall. A little work, and we could really make something out of this place. She closed the coin pouch and just stared at it, gripping it so tight the coins clinked against one another. Just something before they leave. Leave? Cal said, trying his best to keep his tone neutral. Why would they leave? Couldn't they just stay with us? I mean, it's not like they have to tell anyone about their gift, right? She didn't respond. The moment hung heavy, silent, awkward. For what felt like forever, she just stood there, staring at the coin pouch, while Cal held his breath. You know, don't you? She uttered. About my. Yeah, no use in hiding it. Playing pretend had to end sooner or later. Prissa saw you. Cal was supposed to say something eloquent, something to set Ovette's mind at ease and make it all okay. They always made it okay for each other. But he couldn't rustle up the words. His lips pursed at the thought of Ovette using her gift. Heat rose in his cheeks. Leif wants you to come back to the orphanage, Cal said. Leif wants? Her voice cracked as she muttered the words. Yeah, he thinks you're in danger. Cal pushed off the table, crossing to the other side of the room, where a hole in the wall offered a partial view of the embers. He couldn't quite make out the orphanage from here, but he knew the district well enough to know where it was. Is that what you want, too? For me to come back? She didn't try to hide the pain in her voice, the disappointment. I. He turned his back to her, heard the ding of coins as she dropped the pouch on the table. Doesn't matter what I want, does it? Of course it does. How long? Cal uttered, tired all of a sudden, fed up. He just wanted this to be over, for things to go back the way they were. How long have you had it? A while? A few weeks, maybe, she whispered. I wanted to tell you. I really wanted to tell you, but. But you didn't. You kept it from me. The venom in his voice felt wrong, left a bad taste in his mouth. His fingers dug into the wall, crumbling loose, tiny flecks of stone. Hid your gift from me. I didn't know how to tell you. I know how you feel about giftlings, and I thought, you thought! He snapped, whirling to face her. Tears streaked her cheeks. Any other time, the sight would have been enough to quell his anger, but not today. Why would you even worry about what I thought? You got what you want. No more skulking around with a dirty hollowborn anymore. Cal, she uttered, her head dropping again. Tightness gripped his chest. His breath came in short rasps. He hated this so much. I'm sorry. Save it, he snapped. Why was she just taking this? Why wasn't she fighting back? Doesn't matter anyway. Leif doesn't think you're a giftling. He called you the Gyfted or something. The Gyfted? Yeah, like from the old stories, Cal said, willing the knot in his chest to loosen. Let's just head back. He can fill you in. Ovette lifted her head. Her expression shifted from sadness to something far worse. Dread. The orphanage, she whimpered, her eyes widening. Yes, back to the orphanage. Like I've been saying. No, Cal, the orphanage. Ovette shoved Cal's shoulder, spinning him on the spot, forcing him to grip the wall for balance. He followed her gaze to the embers below. People fled through the streets, tumbling over one another. They ran in the opposite direction from where the orphanage would be, away from the flashes of light, away from the black plume of smoke rising over the district.